Tšau, BBQ Ässad! Täna on meil one-on-one ja täna on meil one-on-one minu hea sõbra Peeteriga. Kõlab eestipäraselt, aga tegelikult ei ole. Tegelikult on tegu täitsa Rootsi mehega ja Rootsi BBQ mehega, aga ta muidu siin stuudios istuks. Ehk siis, hi Peter, I say Peter now. In English it sounds weird, but hi.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Yeah. So, first question, like your connection with Estonia. It's like, why are you in this studio? Why do we know each other?
Well, I think my connection to Estonia is started almost 25 years ago, where I actually met my current wife in actually Sweden on an island, very romantic, and we connected. And since then, obviously, I'm connected now. We have two kids together, and I've been married for 20 years.
Okay, your wife is Estonian then?
She's Estonian. She's from Saaremaa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You grabbed a good one then.
I suppose so. So I've heard.
Okay. But we know each other through barbecue and barbecue competitions. How long has it been? Where did we meet first?
We met at the my first barbecue festival competition in Saue.
Yeah, and that was what year?
That was in 2018, I think.
2018. Okay, but were you at South Sweden barbecue competition with the WBQA European Championship? Do you remember that?
As well. That's right. But I don't think we actually got acquainted at that one. I think I just noticed you at that competition.
Okay.
That you went by and we probably shook hands or so, but I didn't make much notice of it. Rather than when I then saw you in Estonia, then I thought, wow.
Okay.
This.
And then through many competitions later.
Obviously, and another communication over the net and everything, helping each other and stuff like that. And obviously, then exchanging information about the results of competitions that we all want to know.
You actually improved our chicken score quite a bit in one competition.
Thank you very much.
In Finland, actually.
I'm happy I could help.
Yeah, we needed that.
Yeah.
But your beginning in barbecue.
Yes.
Where does it lie? Are you a chef and then got into it, or how does it work for you?
No, I'm actually a very, very keen foodie. So I started out pretty early with cooking, and then I'm a bit of a nerd. So when I get into something, I really want to get into it deep. And as time went by and people started to grill, we bought a house, and I thought I'd have a grill. And then I thought, well, I could buy a very cheap one, obviously, at the tank station. But then I met a friend who had developed his skills for barbecue, and he said, well, no, get a real one. So I got a kettle grill, and then I started developing this one. I went on to the social medias. So I attached to one of the Danish ones that was pretty big at that time, that started in 2006. Mm-hmm. So I followed this one, learned all the terminology of the grilling and the barbecuing, and obviously trying it out on my small kettle grill. And that's really where it started. And I was just blown away by, the taste of the smoke, that you could actually smoke meat and get that enhanced flavor and everything apart from the spices. And put it this way, maybe the neighbors didn't appreciate it as much as I did, because it made their laundry smell smoke as well. But never mind.
Okay, and how the hell did you get into the competition from that?
Well, this was I think it was just of a coincidence, I think, because then obviously as you get in touch with more and more people within barbecue, on especially social media. I must thank social media for this. I mean, the development that has...
Is it a thank or...?
It is actually a thank. My wife might have a different opinion to that. She would say it took away a lot of our acquaintance time together, but never mind. But as you get to know people, with common interests, and you develop it, and then say, well, you could actually compete in this stuff. And I say, well, wow, that must be difficult. Obviously, being a backyard griller, how can I ever compete? But then I did a few competitions. We didn't do it very well because I thought, obviously at that time, that my backyard grilling, which was appreciated by all the neighbors around, that could go a long way in competition. But I was, I got that surprise that everybody does that. It's not the same thing.
Okay. When did you start? When was it?
The first competition I did was in 2017.
Okay.
It's 2016, and it was a WBQA competition, and in Liseberg in Sweden, and it was a really good experience. As I say, the trouble was that it didn't score, and I understood that I had to really develop my skills in, especially logistics. Is when you are in a competition, you've got certain times to leave in your meats, and if you haven't got your logistics right, everything turns upside down, which it did. And so we were overstressed, we overcooked the meat, we burned even the meat. And so what we turned in was probably not what we would have put on any table anywhere.
Okay.
But there you are.
Yeah, it was supposed to be fun, but it was stressful actually.
It was, and also as you brought up a nice point there, because you might attend a competition, but as you know, when you start competing, that the community of all the barbecuers in the competition is so friendly. We might compete with it to each other, but we know actually the one that judges us is the judges, and so we don't need to really get angry at each other for that, which creates this nice community of grillers in a competition. I think so. I would give that 50% actually of the experience of competing, which I absolutely love.
Okay, and you're only done Sweden, right?
I've done Sweden at the moment. Yes, that's right. I haven't really extended it so far away from that. Yeah.
And Sweden is mostly WBQA style barbecue competitions.
It is. The reason being that I think that the Swedish SBQA, as it once was called, they've just changed the name to WQA Sweden, has been probably the forthcoming one from the very beginning, because it was run through from many grillers. And so I think the KCBS has never really established itself in Sweden until now. It's a lot on individual, let's just say, individual decisions of taking that into the country. It takes a lot of work, from the ones who actually start establishing them.
So you haven't been to competing in any KCBS competition so far, or?
I have, yes. I have been to KCBS competition in just outside Olofstorp in Sweden, where one of the Swedish famous grillers, if you like, Thomas Flölich, has held a competition for a couple of years, Smoke of the North. It was very popular. That was actually one of our first competition that was really, really difficult. We hadn't one of these major smokers with us because we thought this was what was going to be needed. We couldn't control the heat on this one. Everything was upside down, and we got it either it was burned or over smoked, or it was just raw. So there was so that competition didn't really work for. This was my first experience and my first entry into KCBS.
Okay.
So
also okay, let's talk about the differences so the viewers would understand.
Correct.
So KCBS is meat only, like 4 meat categories: chicken, ribs, pork, and brisket. WPQA is actually more, because you have to turn in on chicken already. You have to turn in both white and dark meats, right?
They've actually changed this recently. We had a debate about that. Before it was the dark and the white meat that you had to turn in. But I think the biggest difference, apart from the details you mentioned, is probably that you have to also turn in a side dish
with chicken.
With chicken and with fish.
Because let's go through the categories
Yeah,
first.
okay, good.
So it's fish first, right?
It's fish,
Then it's chicken,
yeah,
ribs,
ribs.
pork butt.
Well,
Called
it's
pork now.
yeah, it's pork. It's more like the neck part. That you use, and then you use chuck roll.
It's not brisket.
No, it's not.
Chuck roll. It's worse.
It actual matter, yes, it is, because it's very difficult to get a marbled piece.
Yeah. But going back to the categories, it's usually redfish or like salmon.
This is where the challenge comes in. We usually get this announced fairly late
Okay.
prior to the competition because they have got difficulty of finding, specialty fishes.
The main difference is WPQA gives you the ingredients, right?
Correct. So you pay your entrance fee, and then you have all the meat provided, including some of the vegetables. The difficulty with your side order sometimes, which is sometimes making it difficult for people to decide, is that you only get to choose from the vegetable box that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to be creative. You can always add a few more condiments to it, but it still has to be these that are in focus. And this is what can make it really, really difficult.
Okay. So with fish, you have to have a side dish. Then with chicken, you have to have a side dish. But from there on, no side dishes, right?
Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily. And then you have a few other dishes, like desserts is always a popular one. And then the vegetarian.
Oh. There's already a vegetarian round in there?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, there is.
And
now
it counts as like overall winning as well, or?
It does now, yes. So both the fish and the vegetarian is part of the whole.
The fish, I understand. The vegetarian, I am thoroughly against.
I know. And it still has to be good.
Yeah, it has to be eatable. We actually competed, 2 months ago now? Or a month ago? Month and a half ago, let's say, in a competition where there was a vegetarian round. We were clearly first before that round came up. Like, after meat rounds, we were winning, and suddenly we were losing. It's, we are meat guys.
Yeah.
It's like, we do meat.
Yeah.
That's why we don't do WPQA anymore. But what do you do in a vegetarian round? Is it like thoroughly like regularized somehow, or it's free?
No, it is totally free, and it's to your own creativity and imagination. So you get to bring all and this is where it differentiates from what you get at the competition, is you bring everything for your vegetarian dish. And obviously it has to have smoke flavor, so you have to choose some ingredients that will work well on the barbecue and create a dish. We did like a taco, so we took it's very famous is to use mushrooms. Mm-hmm. Mushrooms that you barbecue, you sweat them out, all the moisture, and then you get like almost a meaty flavor, yes. And then you put all your condiments into this one, and then we created a bread, a taco bread, and smoked the whole thing. So yeah, it was popular with mayo, and hey, it worked nicely. We liked it. I mean, we scored number 5 or something, and that was good, really good.
Okay, argue if you want to. Isn't that more like a culinary competition than a barbecue competition?
This is always a discussion that comes up in the community, of course, of where is the WQA actually driving towards. And I think I agree with you that a lot of it is down to culinary skills, and so many of our teams actually consist now of at least one cook in the teams, because you are judged a bit on appearance. You're just a bit on this creativity, and yeah, it's more than just the meat.
Yeah, that's what I think in Estonia, early years of barbecue, like beginning of 2000s, the decade of 2000 till 2010, the chefs were the ones who were winning, because there was like a WPQA style, so every team had a real chef in it, so who made a beautiful food into the box and so on. And we couldn't compete in that. We do meat, and we're not very pretty about it also.
But I think I want to add to it anyway. If you're a culinary fantasist and you like cooking, then you learn a lot from these competitions, because having a cook in your team and then developing a dish together, you really do enhance your knowledge if that's what you want to do.
Do you have a cook in your team?
I do have a cook in my team, yes. We only 2 in our team at the moment, so yes, I have a cook.
Okay. 2 guys in a team?
Yes.
How, isn't it too busy with all the side dishes and stuff?
It is. The good thing is that a cook is very good at logistics. So he prepares everything in advance. So he knows exactly in what order he will prepare everything. And we managed actually to get a very good coordination each other. He does all the fancy stuff, and I do all, as you just mentioned, all the meats and the rough stuff, and get the spices on and get it smoked in the correct order and everything, and plan that. So we have a very nice team and a very good collaboration.
You mentioned you started on kettle, then you've been through a whole lot of smokers, I guess.
Yes.
So let's go through your smokers again.
Right. Okay. So from the kettle grill, when you start get into barbecuing, you very quickly learn that you have to maintain a constant temperature in your grill, and to be able to maintain this, you need either a better grill or a very good control of your temperature in a kettle grill. That's very time-consuming. You have to be up all night, first of all, and they have to keep a constant temperature. And because the metal of a kettle grill is so thin, it will not maintain the temperature very well. It's not very, very well isolated. So the next step you then move into is something that's more isolated, a material that will hold the heat, and it will restrict the influence of the temperature outside. And then you will move into a ceramic, which I did. And that's where you can actually control the temperature over time. You can even leave it overnight, and you can do all your barbecuing with hardly any sweat once you've learned that technique. So that was the next step for me. The next one you then move into is how do you control the heat without having to monitor it all the time, and to make it easy so that you can concentrate on everything else. So I actually turned towards pellet grills, which is the next one. And this is more like a machine, if you like, that will feed pellets into the smoker, ignite it, and once you've set your temperature, it's like an oven. It will keep that temperature until the last pellet is burnt. And that has proven to be a success, at least for our team. It's worked very, very nicely. I have to isolate a little bit more than with the metal, so I have like a coat on it. But otherwise, it's performing really well, and it takes away all the stress of maintaining a temperature.
You use pellet grills in your competition, right? So what pellet grills are you using?
I'm using the Green Mountain grills.
GMGs.
Yeah. Right.
And do you use like smoke tubes in them?
I have used smoke tubes in them. One of the disadvantage I see with that is that because you haven't got a proper burning of the pellets when you have. I think we need to probably explain that the tube that you refer to is where you fill a tube with holes in it with pellets, and then you ignite it, and then you put it into your fire, so your chamber actually where your meat is, so it's next to the meat, apart from then the smoke that you get from the pellets. So I think you probably want a lighter smoke than what an actually tube would give you. It could be a bit too hot if you've got the tube next to the meat, and you could score the meat even because you actually increasing the temperature of the actual chamber when you have that one in there. I've tried different options because the pellet grill in itself, as we know who grills with pellet grills, is you get a slightly milder smoke than you would get in an actual smoker. And so when I tried to enhance this smoke with a tube, I realized that it was a bit too harsh. It was almost to the bitter side. So I think you need to be a bit careful when you use the tube and where you place it in your chamber.
What's the most popular grill type used in Sweden in competition?
I think as time has gone by and everything has developed, ceramic grills are still very widely used because they maintain a nice temperature. Pellet grills to some extent, but I think the one that has been introduced a couple of years ago is the ugly drum smokers, and I think it's the influence from many of the European winning teams that they've started using them, and as we've talked about before, it's a bit of an old-fashioned method where you have a drum and you place your coal at bottom, and then you place your meat then in different heights above this, and you get this radiant heat, and you can cook meat at a considerably shorter time than you would do in a smoker, which is favorable when you compete.
One thing I remembered about WBQA is that first of all, you have to turn in food in every 1 hour, not half an hour, right?
Right.
But it's over 2 days. It's spread out over 2 days, right?
It could even be as long as 3 days. There are a lot of categories, like the one we've competed in Denmark has been almost 10 categories.
10 categories. Can you go through them? 10.
Yeah, 10. So, depending on the competition, it could be fish, dessert, chicken,
Ribs?
beef, ribs. But then you have some categories, probably hamburger.
Okay.
Yeah, right. You could have the vegetarian.
Okay, that's
Right.
7.
Right. And then you could have what they call is the best hot dog, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you need to come up with the creative way of this. I have a nice experience
pork.
from
We
last year.
forgot pork.
Pork.
So that's 9.
Pork at 9. But then you've got one that we had last year was egg.
Egg.
Correct.
You smoke an egg?
We all it was announced to us and to everybody, and the first thought that kills you is how you're gonna get smoke into an egg. How are you gonna smoke? Are you gonna crack the egg and smoke it, or are you gonna actually smoke it in the shell? So we worked around different ideas, and so you have to come up with a dish based on this. And at first we thought, okay, you can smoke an egg, because we all know, at least if you've been acquainted with it, is if you take a truffle, like a truffle, and then you place that next to an egg in a bag in the refrigerator, the actual egg would take a taste from the truffle. So we thought that must be the same with smoke, that the shell might be some porous. So we first smoked the egg. It works perfectly. You get a nice smoke on it. It actually penetrates into the egg through the shell.
Shit, I need to try this. Now I need to try this.
This is cool.
How hot does the oven have to be?
150 degrees.
And for how long?
Only less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Almost like a cook an egg.
Yeah. And it gets a smoky taste.
It does.
And then it's like a boiled egg or
It's like a boiled egg.
with smoke taste.
Yes.
Shit, I need to try this now. No, we're gonna do a recipe. We're gonna do a freaking recipe about a smoked egg on a shell.
It's cool. But what we did was, at the final competition, we had this in mind. But then, as the competition went on, we started juggling around a few other ideas. We thought, what if we crack the egg, cut off the top of the egg from the beginning, and then we smoke it and hold the egg upwards and smoke it, and then we take out the egg yolk, and you put salt on it, and you ferment it if you like, and so it hardens, and then you make a mixture with some of the egg and together with a mayo, and then you push it back into the egg, and then you take your fermented egg yolk, and then you scrape it so that you get a powder, and then you spread that all over. And we come third in the Danish championship on that one.
That's a culinary stuff now.
It is.
That's a culinary competition.
Yeah.
That's my brain exploded. Okay. So 3 days of barbecue competition. That's gonna be wearing somebody out pretty quickly then.
It does. As I mentioned before, the competitions are like 50% fun. And I think at the Danish competition, I mean, the atmosphere at these competitions is amazing. It's the same teams that returns every year to just be part of this. And it's hardly from the hardcore competitors, if you like. Here you got families that will attend with kids and everything, and they will stay there for 3 days and you know, have fun even in the evenings.
Do you have kids competitions?
We don't in this case, but people would bring whole families.
Because in US, they are like the night before, they have the kids competition, kids barbecue competition. Like they have to do hamburger or something like that.
Right.
So everybody would bring their families to the barbecue competition.
Yes.
So they would spend time with their families, so the kids could cook, and next day then the elders will cook, I guess.
Yeah.
How many barbecue competitions in Sweden every year?
Well, let's see here. There's on the WBQA. There's one in every year, and then you have the KCBS. We're trying to establish one every year, but it's always down to one initiative from one person that has to create this, and that's the difficulty. So we only really have one every year with the WQA. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody know probably that the barbecue competition is not a good business for the organizer. It's like
No. Yeah. It's hard work, isn't it? Hard work
and very, very, very little benefits.
And we as
Money-wise.
competitors have high demands that everything should work when we arrive.
Especially Swedish people. Now you're gonna enter your first KCPS over a long time, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be the barbecue in the swamp, or
Yes. No, smoke in
the north, or
the swamp. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it was called. So how do you prep for that?
Well, first of all, I have to look at the choice of meat that I need to use in these competitions. When you compete in KCBS, the choice of since you're bringing all your meat to your competition yourself, you have the choice of bringing the ever best meat you can get hold of. So that puts an extra pressure on you as a team. And because of the categories, the most difficult ones is the brisket and possibly the butt, to get hold of the right cut, because these are the American cuts and they're not very common, for us in the north to cut these as a butcher. So that's the first challenge. And then once you've gotten hold of these, then you need to learn to cook these and cook it properly. And this is again the difficulty, because when it's a competition, you have to adhere to the judges' verdict, or the verdicts you've had before of how the meat actually should look, so that you can be benchmarked with your competitors. And this is obviously the difficulty.
Okay. You just had, it's not just, but it's a little while ago, you just had a Swedish barbecue championship in WBQA. You didn't do so bad.
No, we didn't do so bad. It's actually one of our best competitions for a while. We adjusted a few things, and so we did second in ribs. I managed to finally get a recipe that works. It took a long while. And then we did third in chuck roll. And that one, I got a nice piece, because I got to get the first choice on one of the meats that we were supposed to be delivered. And I got a really marbled one, and I could actually cook it almost like a brisket.
Okay.
So that was very nice.
How do you serve the chuck roll?
You have a choice. You could serve the brisket in slices. So if you can actually create like a roll of one of the piece of meat, you could actually cut it up like in slices, and then you could do burnt ends. Excuse me. You could do burnt ends as well.
It has to be marbled for that, though, for the burnt ends.
Yes, it does actually. So that you get a really, really good and moist burnt end. Yeah. But otherwise, then you could serve the bark. You could serve the bark which I did in one competition where I actually won in another competition. So you have a choice.
Okay.
So it's not so restricted.
You've also been judging competitions, right?
Mm.
Like been in multiple ones, or like different competitions that you've been judging, or just few?
I've only been judging actually one KCBS, two actually. So I haven't. I'd rather compete. It's more fun. It's more fun.
But you judged Estonia once, yeah?
I did, yes.
And the other one was Finland, no?
It was Sweden.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
But I met you in Finland once, and
Yes.
you were just coming over as a fan to check out the barbecue competition.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Travel all this way
Yeah.
to not compete, just to overlook it, to see what the competition was like. But that's the way I am, and that's how we are.
Yes.
We just go for the smoke.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I've also been to US to see barbecue competition. What the hell do you see in a barbecue competition? Everybody's sitting in their tents. How do you find the barbecue people, like, who are competing? Like, when they are doing something with their meats, do you find them secretive, or...
Obviously, to some extent, we all want to keep our secrets to ourselves, because we all know that once you get into competition barbecuing, there's a lot of hours behind in getting the meat in with the right appearance, the right texture, and the right taste. And it takes hours and hours and hours to get this correct. And obviously then, and we should be secretive about how we get our results, of course, because that is the edge. But apart from that, as I say, the atmosphere you have at the competitions is very, very pleasant. We're very pleasant to each other. We were not aggressive. Obviously, we don't invite each other to our different tents to show which spices we use. That would not be a competition. But apart from that, we are really having a nice atmosphere. We take a few beers together, and as the meat is cooking, we could even sit outside, and just talk friendly to each other and really have a nice chat.
So going to a barbecue competition is not just going to a competition, it's going like meeting your friends and having a beer and so on. It's
Very
about
much.
the company as well.
Very much, very much. So I really do. For everyone who hasn't been involved in barbecue, I would forehold that please go and visit a barbecue competition, because it's more than just a competition, and you will get to know what barbecuing is all about.
You also do classes, right?
Yes,
So how many classes do you do a year?
I do between 8 and 9 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you teach in your class?
Well, the basics are to the backyard grillers is maintaining the right temperature on your grill, and then know the final temperature of the meat that you are to serve, and take it off in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say that as comparants, nobody cooks on the highest heat on your hob. Why should you do this on your grill? And that makes people think twice, actually. And then the logistics. Plan. Think ahead what you're going to make, when you're going to make it, and don't let it be the last thought you've got 10 minutes before you're going to barbecue, because then it's going to turn out really, really badly as you're planning.
Do you go through meat categories?
I do go through some of the meat categories, not so much, but it's more down to the backyard grill. You have to realize that the ones attending a grill course want to learn how to get the best results of what they're trying to grill. So I usually ask the question before the course, if you like, to say, okay, which level are we on and what have you tried to do? And most commonly, it's not so much the meat type as it is how do you cook it for how long time. And so I go through some of the categories like chicken, beef, which is the most common ones. Fish is usually a very difficult one. People are reluctant to cook fish because they overcook it, or they don't know how to cook it overall. So So it's mostly about temperature control.
How long is the course? Like
3 hours.
3-hour course.
Yeah.
That's
And then
fast.
it is. It's 3 hours, and then you structure it like you say. You have 4 or 5 categories of meat and vegetables that you go through, and then you let them cook, and then you show them how to cook it. And at the end, I always have like a show off. For instance, maybe I would show them a little bit how you do competition ribs and the astonishing taste that you can actually get, which always is a big surprise to people. So they have something to take away. And also I could do a picanha maybe and get the flames, to lick around the piece of meat. And that's also something that's a takeaway, Wow,
Okay.
I can actually do this.
And how big are the groups?
It's usually of 6 to 12 people. And the good thing about these courses, I like them very much, is that people usually bring more than just themselves and what they want to know and the questions they've got, but also they used to bring wine sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, to have a good time.
Do you also find what I have found like around my friends and so on that people are a little bit scared of barbecuing? They say, "I'll just grill it." Don't worry, without understanding that barbecuing is more easy actually than grilling, because in grilling you have that little time where the meat is done perfectly. In barbecuing you have loads of time when it's ready to serve at home. It's like, do you also find that barbecuing, it's hours of, it's so difficult? It's not. It's just set your GMG up for going and it's easy.
I think it's again with the mind of a barbecuer. I think that it's difficult to understand why people wouldn't use that method rather than the quick grilling. But I think if you go into the mind of the common backyard griller, they want something fast, something quick, because it's down to again the planning. Very hardly you find people planning, for a barbecue and keeping it on the grill and waiting for it to be finished, because they only planned it 10 minutes before the meal. So how are they ever going to make a barbecuing that needs to last for at least 10 hours? That's going to be horrendous. You're going to have really hungry people.
How would you start in barbecue competitions if you would do it now? It's like from zero to I want to go to a barbecue competition. How would you start that? Like that journey. What would be like? You've done that journey, right?
Yes.
I've done it. Tanel has done it. But how would you start that journey now? What would be the smart journey to start barbecue competitions?
I think the
Have you done it the smart way or
still learning.
Yeah, same here. Like
No. I think the most important is the logistics in every aspects. Even I think in any aspects actually. Even when you do barbecuing, you do the quick short grilling or whatever. I think even so for competitions, it's logistics. When do you trim the meat? How much in? How long time in advance do you need to set the meat on the smoker to be able to pull it out at the absolute right time with the right texture? So I think the planning is one very important factor. The next one is of course to get your right spices, of course, to get it to taste the way you want to. So have a thought on that. Cut the meat that you want. Think in advance how you want to serve the meat and how it's going. And most importantly, how is it going to fit into the box? Because haven't we been in competitions where we cook the meat and then have to make it fit into the box, and we have to cut off the edges to make room for it?
Yeah. There's a good thing about the logistics. It's not only about like what the word says or timetables. It's also about the things you take to the competition. First thing is practice, in my mind. Practice. Ask advice, because competition barbecue people are friendly. They will help you if they can. Then practice, and the most important thing, take your ass to the competition and try it first. Then you will get some score sheets, then you will get some feedback, then you can interact with other teams, learn. You will lose that competition first, and you're not going to win it. Don't worry about it. But go for the experience. But there's a thing that we have done for years. We've taken like the whole house to the freaking competitions. Like there was everything with us. Like van was full from one end to the other. And lately, we have a pretty much a ballroom, like a dance hall under our tent, because we're taking as little as possible. So we couldn't start doing stupid stuff. And I saw a trick from a guy who was trying to tell what you should take to the competition. And it was like this: do a practice run at your yard. Set a smoker, set a table, and do it in your yard. But don't have any stuff except the smoker and the table in there. So you start taking stuff from your house, one piece by one piece, to prep your competition. And everything you take from your house to that table, you leave it there. And everything you take outside that day, you take to your competition. Rest of the crap stays in the house. Don't take it with you to the competition. It doesn't have to be there. So that's really important, because I've seen guys like mountains of stuff in their competition, and it's totally unnecessary, and it just confuses you. Make it as simple as possible for yourself. Make it as fun as possible for yourself. I think that's the key, and try to have fun. That's the main thing about the competing. It should be fun in the end. Well, sometimes awards are not that fun, but
apart from when you win.
Yeah, apart from, I haven't won anything lately. Been second only. First loser. Tell me a good barbecue story. Good, funny barbecue story.
Okay, yes. We were attending a WBQA competition. We were two in the team from the beginning. This was the one in Brösarp where we actually met the first time, in south of Sweden. And we entered there with everything set, thought everything should work out. I entered first, or came to Brösarp first, so I waited for my colleague. And he didn't show up, and then I had to take help from somebody around to help me that attended the competition. Then, after 3 hours, I get a phone call from the colleague that was supposed to turn up. He was attending this Sweden Rock Festival where he was handing out wraps and hamburgers. Somebody had started stealing from his cashier, so he couldn't leave the site, and so he gave me that surprise that he couldn't turn up at the competition.
That's for European Championship.
Exactly, it was combined Swedish and European Championship. Yeah. So then I start sweating. I thought, what do I do now? Now we're here and we're supposed to do the best of it we can, and I've got help from somebody, and the one that was to help me, Johan, had been part of other team and knew nothing about our details, so he had no on-hand detail of anything we were supposed to turn in, or any way how to prepare the dishes. So I was completely on my own. So I was stressful. So I had to turn to everybody around. So as the days went by, obviously we couldn't prepare, as we hadn't prepared, and he didn't have a clue of what was going on. Obviously what we turned in was absolutely awful. It couldn't be worse. I think we even turned in the chicken raw, and so everything was just stressful. And and as the days went by to the almost last day, actually, we thought that, okay, fuck it, this is just another competition. Okay, we've learned a lot. We were sitting in our sun chairs, looking up at the sun to say, okay, we've just turned in choc roll. Yeah, to see how it goes. Okay, it's probably going to be like everything else. We didn't make notice of it. All of a sudden, somebody knocks me on the shoulder to say, look, I heard that you have a choc roll that tastes quite good. Okay. And I look at my car and say, okay, fine. Have you got anything left of that? Yeah, I might have some scrap there in the back of the tent, so you might want to, you can probably have one of the scrap that we're going to throw away anyway. So he went there to taste it. And as he took this bite into his mouth, he then turned around and he takes up a top 5 sheet that shows that we were top 5 on the chalk roll for this competition. And you can imagine what happened to the atmosphere going from really, really deep low to, top high. And I looked at him and said, this is unbelievable. We were screaming loud. It was heard over the whole competition area.
Okay.
And so then you start thinking the next one, are we top 5 in Europe? What could that mean to the Swedish results? Mm-hmm. A friendly guy came past and he said, I've just looked on the internet, I just calculated. You actually even a winner in Sweden on this one. And you can imagine what that even made to us. So we were over the moon, we even, so once the results, the award ceremony was there, we were top high, as you can imagine. We were on drugs. So we left our chairs, we left everything, went to the award ceremony, and we were jumping for so when it was announced that we were actually taking the Swedish championship on chalk roll and second in Europe, you can imagine what that did to us. I was over the moon. So we even forgot our chairs in the tent. We forgot the tables and everything and went home and just forgot half of the equipment we had. But what an experience. That was my first ever win in a competition, and did that hook me.
Okay. So there's a possibility you're coming over for the Vanamõisa BBQ Festival.
There's a big possibility, yes.
Because it has been a possibility with you every year.
It has.
Yeah, every year we have talked about, I'm trying to find a way to come over, and you never do.
No.
Unless it's for the eating.
Correct.
Yeah. What about this year? How about we cross some sports now?
Yes.
Cross some sports in Vanamõisa and week later in Sweden.
Yes. Please. That would be nice.
Okay. So expectations for GCBS competition? Win.
Obviously, the ambition has to be win. We've done pretty well in the last competitions, and I'm quite confident that I know a bit of what I'm doing. I think the choice of meats is going to be the most challenging for me, especially on the big cuts like the brisket and the pork butt. That's going to be difficult. Ribs, obviously, as well, but it's slightly easier. But the two other ones are the big meats. It's a big, because as you know, in KCBS now, the choice of meat is on your own, and you actually can compete on the cut of meat that you can afford. And
so I can lend you a Greek stone for a certain amount of money. Greek stone actually beat our Wagyu last competition. So if you know what you're doing,
so
then
please.
Yeah,
that's the one I need.
I have a Greek stone in my home fridge, I think. Then me and Tanel, we can help you with ribs.
Sounds good.
And we will see about the pork butts. There's a possibility we can help out.
Okay.
And any shop around Estonia will help you with chicken.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that Dreamfire will help you with cookers, tents, and everything. So
sounds perfect.
Pack
I look
your
forward
bags
to this.
and then come over.
I look forward to it.
And we will pack our stuff and come over. And if you get us here, there will be a payback week later in Sweden.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, there's a deal. Coming over?
There is, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, done.
Thank you for being here. And I'll see you in Vanamõisa. Hopefully see you in podium.
Hopefully too, yes.
Yeah. And I hope my name is called last. So no, it's just so good friends in barbecue it, and it's a pleasant to have.
I can promise you a hug at least.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, for coming over, and thank you for that one-on-one session, and I'll see you in competition. Aitäh sulle, et sa vaatasid. Kui sulle meeldib meie kanal, siis hakka selle jälgijaks ja tule juba neljapäeval tagasi, sellepärast et siis on meil kavas retsept. Tšau!